Okay, here we are. Part two. Part two. And I know some of you guys I went to bed, so you'll have to see the replay. Yeah, it cut me off for some reason. For some reason. Can't imagine why. But anyway, it's a little bit late. I had to run to a meeting and now I'm back to do this. I want to finish what I was talking about. So when you last saw me in part one, it cut me off right when I was talking about Canada. And I was telling you guys that my husband and I had only been talking to each other for 5 weeks, long distance. He was in Canada, I was here. I saw him face to face for the first time the day before we got married when he flew into the United States to marry me. So I was engaged for 10 hours. We courted long distance for 5 weeks, and then I was engaged for 10 hours. And this year, on August the 1st, we would be married 17 years. There you go. But anyway, Canada is off the charts. All right, let me get back to that. So we go to the store. And he told me, as I said in my first video, part one, that, he told me to go ahead and get whatever I needed. And okay, so I shopped like I do when I'm here. And I'm trying to fill our refrigerator and make sure I have the things that I need because we had a business up there and he had a business. We became a business after a while, but he was going to have to go to return to work. Meanwhile, I was going to be making my nest, you might say. Anyhow, we go to the store. And when we get to the checkout, he told me to go ahead and get whatever I wanted. So we get to the checkout. And the lady says 400 and something. I about had a coronary, okay? Because I got the same thing that I normally would buy here in the United States. It was 2 times plus tax as much. It wasn't a better product. It wasn't a different product. It was the same products as much as I could find them. 2 times and a half plus tax is what it cost. I couldn't believe it. I could not believe it. So let me say a little bit about the tariffs and stuff that is going on right now. If I did not mention this, listen, if I said this, I'm sorry, y'all, I'm fidgeting. I'm always fidgeting. I don't know why I'm fidgeting. Anyway, wrong one. See, everything's backwards on here. Anyway, listen. So, if I didn't say this in the first video, I want to explain what is happening in regard to these tariffs. So if I did explain it, just bear with me, okay? I just want to try to make sure that everybody is understanding what is happening with our country right now. We support militarily a lot of other countries. They can't hold their own, right? They absolutely can't hold their own. So for decades they have called on us because we had a superior fighting force. All of our fighting forces in every branch of our government, of our military, was superior, and that's why people would call on us because we're a superpower, right? The last administration really tried to diminish our power militarily speaking so that we could be invaded and taken over because you have psychopaths and communists that were running the country. And I ain't name calling folks. I'm telling you, that's what was in the White House, and pedophiles and cocaine addicts. But anyway, never mind. The list is too long. Anyhow, so I want to explain about the tariffs. And the reason that I'm using Canada for an example is because they were charging us somewhere around 260% tariff on dairy products. That's just dairy products. They don't allow our cars into their country. We have other products that they don't allow into their country, but their stuff comes into our country. Now, the only thing that the president was saying was that the tariffs need to be fair. If you don't like the fact that we want 25%, then why don't you get rid of your 260 something percent And we just do 25% across the board. You know what their response is? You're not going to bully us. We're your best trading partner. Yeah, it's working out real well for them. Real well for them. Not so much for us. And it's the same thing with NATO. All of these nations that want our help, we're funding them, we're giving them weapons. Don't forget about that Afghanistan debacle that happened where President Biden left all of our equipment brand new over there and left it with the enemy that we had been fighting and keeping at bay for over 20 years. He just gave it to them. Just gave it to them. To me, that's treason. But anyhow, so we got these tariffs, and we got all of these countries that want us to fund them and to protect them. But when it comes time for them to do their part, as far as paying it, whatever it is they're supposed to be paying to help protect their own country, they don't want to do that. And so the president now is saying, listen, if you want our help, you need to pay your fair share. And if you're not willing to do that, then y'all go ahead, fight it out. We'll see you when it's over. Okay? Because we don't want to be in no wars anyway. We just want peace. Our people just want to live in peace. We don't want to be involved in your endless wars. We don't want to be involved in all this stuff that's going on here and going on there. But if you threaten our country and you threaten our people that are still over there, we're coming for you. Okay, this is, he's not playing. So the first time around, he was a little naive. I don't think he understood how entrenched the corruption in this nation was and how long it had been there. So he's thinking, cooler heads will prevail. We'll just come together. I'll sit down. I'll get everybody around the table. We'll talk, sing kumbaya, and everybody will go home. And no, they tried to kill the man. Okay. So they tried to kill him. They ain't tried to kill him the first time, but they sure tried to kill him this time. Before he even made it back to the Oval Office, they're like, we got to stop this guy. Now, why is it that they would be so bent on eliminating him when all he's trying to do is, number one, get the criminals out of the country that are raping and pillaging our citizens? He's trying to get them out, and you got judges ordering the plane to turn around and come back and bring those people back. These people are demented. They are sick. They are crazy. They are psychopaths, okay? And they are criminals. And we got to be dealing with, it ain't just bad actors that are from foreign countries. We got bad actors right here in our own government that are trying to overthrow our country. And there's a word for that, and it needs to be dealt with. It really does, because it is a danger to our entire structure as a society, right? These people are relentless. They have been at this for decades trying to take this country down and had not been able to. And so it had been said some years ago that if this country was going to be brought to its knees, it was going to happen from the inside, because we were too much of a fighting force to do it from the outside. So little by little, they penetrated every area of government in our country. And then they started turning everything on its head. They destroyed the education system. There shouldn't even be. And now the president's saying, you know what? We need to just disband the whole thing. Send the education back to the states, okay? And that way the parents can feel like if their kids are going to a school that's keeping them stupid, they can move to a different school or move to a different state or whatever. But right now, the federal government is in charge of education, and so that's where all this stuff came from in the curriculum. But anyhow, so the tariffs are dealing with reciprocity across the board, right? If you don't want to be abused, don't be an abuser. Now, what I would say to the new leftist prime minister of Canada is this. You can blow hot air all you want to, and you can threaten to shut off the electricity in the northern east of the United States. We got candles, okay? We got propane, we got whatever. We can make electricity, and it's just like the president said, we don't need you. Now, we are in good faith trying to work with these other countries in regard to goods and services and products and all this kind of stuff. But listen, folks, the time to get screwed over financially, like they've been taking advantage of us for decades, is over. And that's what this president is trying to say. Like it or not, you ought to be applauding the guy for not wanting your tax money to go over to Lord knows where for transgender studies. Okay, I mean, did you vote for that? Because I didn't vote for that. I didn't vote for that. All right. So there's that. He's not trying to be a bully. He is saying, let it be fair. If you think 25% is too much to ask of you, why is it okay for you to charge us 260%? Why is it? This ain't rocket science, okay? This is not a hard thing to understand. He wants fairness. That's it. There's nothing wrong with that, okay? So, this whole the Trump derangement syndrome thing is a real thing. As I just got out of another meeting, I was like, it's a real thing. It's a absolute real thing. When you have governors and mayors who care more about the criminal who has no rights in this country. If they entered illegally, they have no rights. They are not under our Constitution. They are criminals. They are an invader. They have no business here, and they need to be put out or they need to be tried. Now, here's the thing. I'm not for keeping every criminal here at taxpayers' expense. The government has no money. That's why they tax its citizens. The money comes from the citizens, unless they just print it and print it and print it, okay? So the taxpayers would be on the hook for everyone that they keep in the country to prosecute or whatever. I personally would prefer that they send them back to wherever they came from. The last administration was literally flying them in on your tax dollars under cover of darkness, bringing them in on buses, right? Cutting the fence, selling parts of the border wall that had been put up so that they could come in. Now, I ask you, let me just appeal to your common sense. If someone came to your house, took the windows out, took the doors off the hinges, right? And then told you that you had no right to say anything about it, and that whoever came into your house had a right to be there. And not only did they have a right to be there, but they had a right to everything that you thought was yours. Your Social Security, your Social Security number, the food in your refrigerator, the food at the store. If you're on assistance, yeah, they're entitled to that too. Yours is going to get cut because it needs to go to the person who took the door off your hinges. Okay. Make that make sense, because it doesn't make sense to me. It does not make sense to me. So now, I don't know if I said this in the last part one of this video. If you haven't seen part one, please look at part one. It's uploaded. You can look at it. What I wanted to say about the wheat, which is what I think I may have covered 2 videos back. I'm not sure. And I'm pretty sure I mentioned it in this last live broadcast, is that the wheat that we finally found had an expiration date that was coming due in 2 weeks. Now, usually flour, whole wheat flour and stuff like that has a long expiration date, 6 months, whatever, if it's packaged properly and if it's fresh. 2 weeks? You know what that means? That means the shipments hadn't been coming in. And so whatever was on the shelf, that was it. We ran into something that was 2 months expired. It was probably full of bugs. So let me just tell you what I do, because we was able to find some. And if you process it properly, it'll be okay. What you need to do, are you listening? Pay attention, okay? And this is with any flour. I've covered this before on some of my other videos when I talked about how to preserve your food and stuff. But what you need to do is take your flour, 5-pound bag, put it in a big roasting pan, biggest one you got, right? Spread it out, put it in your oven on 225 degrees for 40 minutes. Just let it go. Don't cover it. Don't cover it. Put the bag in there with it, the bag that it came in, not your Walmart bag, but the bag that the flour was actually packed in. Put that in the oven too. It will not catch on fire. Don't worry. Paper ignites at a whole higher temperature than that. So don't worry about that. 225. Put it in the oven with the flour. Let it stand there for 40 minutes. Take it out. Put it on your counter on a cooling rack. Let it cool down completely. So give it an hour or two to cool down. And in between that time, go in there with a spoon, cooking spoon, and just give it a stir to get the heat off the bottom and bring it to the top. Just give it a stir, every 30 minutes or so. Give it a stir, and then go back and check it after a couple of hours. If you put your hand down in the flour and it still feels warm, even slightly warm, it's not ready yet. Don't do nothing. Give it another 30 minutes, okay? It's a little time consuming, but I'm telling you, your flour will last you a very long time if you do this. Now, why are you doing this? Because you don't know. I don't want to gross you out, but anytime you get flour from a store that has come from a large processing place, it has larvae in it, okay? Or it has eggs in it. You can't see it. They're microscopic, but they're there. That's why if you keep stuff too long, it suddenly gets bugs. The bugs didn't come from outside. The bugs came from inside the bag, okay? And this is why you put the bag and the flour in the oven to kill it off. Now, some people say, oh, I just put mine in the freezer. Well, let me tell you the problem with that. The problem with that is, number one, condensation. Number two, you ever heard of hibernation? Okay, there are little critters that hibernate. You put it in the freezer, they're not going to die. They're going to go to sleep. They're going to go to sleep. And then as soon as you take that flour out and it's got a chance to warm up and become room temperature, they're going to wake up and you still have bugs. Okay, so I'm telling you, you put it in the oven, it'll be fine. I have made bread with it, no problem. None. I haven't had a problem with it. All right. I put it back in the bag that it came out of. I take a coffee, I close it. I take a coffee filter. I put it on top of the end that I opened. I tape that down. I put it in a vacuum sealed bag and I vacuum seal it and I pack it away. Okay. I just made bread this morning or yesterday from flour that I had from 2023. It was fine, except I screwed up the recipe. But the flour was fine. No bugs, no problem, nothing. No problem. It's not the first time I've done it, and I wouldn't tell you to do it if it was a mess. Okay, so it's fine. Why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this because when these tariffs kick in full swing, the price of everything is going to go through the roof. It just is. So let's just hope and pray that cooler heads will prevail, that the new prime minister of Canada will not just puff his chest out and think he's going to take Trump on, because I got news for him. That's a bad idea. That's a really bad idea. And the president has already told us it's going to hurt for a little bit, but we're going to prosper. We're going to be fine. He has to take a tough stand against this abuse that these countries have been doing to us, robbing us blind like this. And you had members of Congress and the Senate getting back paid on all this stuff, getting money, giving themselves raises while they're talking about we need the debt ceiling raised, or we're going to have to shut down the government. I got a suggestion. Why don't you forfeit one of your paychecks if you're concerned about shutting down the government and you're concerned about the American people not having what they need? Why don't you forfeit one of your paychecks? Because after all, all that money that was going to Ukraine and found its way back into your pocket. Yeah. Your pants ought to be dragging the ground because you just loaded. Okay, you just loaded with money, and it's the taxpayers' dollars. Anyway, miss me with that. All right, so that's about the wheat, and so I wanted to tell you that what to do about that. You can do the same thing with white flour, all-purpose flour. Don't do it with self-rising flour. Don't do it with the self-rising flour, because that has baking powder in it and you might kill off the strength of your baking powder. So your bread flour, your all-purpose flour, bleached, unbleached, your whole wheat flour, it doesn't matter. That's all I use. I don't use rye flour or anything else like that. I can just talk to you about what I know. Okay. Now, let me talk to you a little bit about about gold and silver, which I had mentioned before. I will say it again. If you do not have it in your possession, you don't own it, folks. You don't own it. There is no depository, there is no vault that will open up for you at 10 o'clock at night or 11 o'clock at night because you have some kind of a financial emergency and you got to get to your stuff. They ain't studying you. They ain't thinking about you. They ain't getting out their bed. They go open up their vault to get your stuff. Okay, they ain't doing it. And let me tell you this. I have never believed in having a promise of gold on a piece of paper. What is that? What is that? About 3 years ago, I heard about a company, I believe they were in California, and this person had a substantial amount of gold that they thought was in this vault in California or Utah or somewhere. Anyway, they needed to get in there and get their stuff. So they write to the company and they say, I need to make a withdrawal out of my vault. And they didn't get a response. So they kept trying to get their stuff and they could not make any headway. They wouldn't get any calls back, nothing. So they finally got in touch with whoever it was they needed to get in touch with. And an investigation was launched into the company. And when they got there with a warrant to go in and check to see if this was a fraudulent company, there was all of these deposit boxes that had IOU in them. Do you hear me? If you don't hold it, you don't own it. That's a fact. You don't know what someone else is doing with your money. So now, picture this. Here we are with the price of gold and silver just going through the roof. Now, if you bought gold or silver, a few years ago, a few months ago, you're doing pretty good right now. Okay, you're doing pretty good because it's gone up. Gold has hit its highest mark like ever. It has never been this expensive to buy it, right? But if you bought it when it was $900 an ounce, or I saw one guy, he said he bought his, he started buying precious metals when he was a young man. This was an older man. He was 70 something. He said he started buying precious metals when they were like $400 an ounce. $400 an ounce. And now it's over $3,000 an ounce. I think he's happy. Okay. I don't know how many ounces he has, but even if he's got 2 ounces, he's doing pretty good. He's doing pretty good. So you don't buy gold and silver to get rich. Gold, silver, that's God's money. That's stuff that it wasn't printed. It was in the earth. It had to be excavated out of God's green earth. Okay, that is God's money. That's real money. So it doesn't make you don't buy that to get rich. You buy that to protect your finances. You convert your fiat paper currency over to real money. Now, okay, so let's just say, for example, they changed the money and they turn it into something else. Now, I happen to be living in Germany, and when I was there as a civilian and as a soldier, we used the Dutch mark. Well, the Dutch mark is no more. Okay, they changed over to the euro. Boy, they said they ain't happy about that. They did that. Nah, I'm tongue tied, but listen, they ain't happy. Now they're tied to the euro, and you got these unelected bureaucrats pulling the strings on the money over there. It's a mess. That's a whole nother thing. But anyway, when the money changed over to the euro, I uh, was ending my time there and I was coming back here. The Dutch mark, it's a little souvenir piece, but it ain't worth anything. You can't take it into a German store and buy anything with it because everything is the euro. over there, right? So let's just say that they decided to do away with the American dollar because it's only worth 3 or 4 cents, right? Yeah, I wasn't figuratively speaking. Okay, it's just really not worth nothing. It's worth what people think it's worth. But that's it. And if you look on it, it's a promise to pay. It ain't even real money. So just read it. Look, pull yourself out a bill and read it. What does it actually say on the bill? All right. Well, let's just say the money changed and you got to pay a bill or whatever, or you have a family emergency and the money has changed and you have gold or you have silver and maybe it's a hospital thing. You can't go to patient billing and say, I got a gold coin. Can you take? Because they have no way to convert that, right? But you can take that gold or silver to a coin dealer or to a reputable gold and silver bullion place online. And I did say a reputable one, okay, that do your homework and sell it back to them and get whatever the currency is of the day to pay your bill at patient services, okay, or whatever. But if the dollar itself ain't worth nothing, you can't, you gonna be doing the whole Zimbabwe thing where it takes a whole barrel of money just to get a piece of bread. That's ridiculous. So the more money that was printed, the less valuable it is. It's just like anything else. That's why even with jewelry, stones, things like that, there are some things that are called semi-precious. There are things that are called precious stones. Why? Because they're rare, because not everybody has them, right? So they're very expensive. But the more of it there is, the cheaper it becomes because everybody's got it, right? You ain't got nobody to sell it to because everybody's got it. So I said all that to say you need to protect your finances. I've been blowing this horn for a few years now, telling you guys watch your finances. They're going to take it. As a matter of fact, now I'm trying to think of which country it was I was reading about the other day, where they are telling their citizens, we're taking your money because we think we might be headed toward war. And so, what you got in the bank really technically belongs to us. You're a depositor, and you gave it to us when you put it in our establishment. So we're going to come in and take your money because we need it because we may be going to war. Do you hear me? That's a real thing. I wish I could remember what country that was, but I was like, oh my Lord. This is why if you don't hold it, you don't own it. Okay, they will take it. If they can get their grubby little paws on it, they can take it. It ain't nothing you can do, especially if it's digital. If it's digital, it's vaporware. You could have a gazillion zeros on your bank account, right? And wake up the next day and have 1 0 balance. At the flip of a switch, they can do that. If all the money you have is on a credit card or digital, you in trouble. You better plan better than that because they can and they will take it. They did it in Canada. If you remember when the truckers were protesting during COVID, they were like, we need to get back to work. We want our kids to go back to school. And you know what Prime Minister Trudeau did? He went into their bank accounts, he seized their money, he locked their accounts, he shut down their businesses, and had his cowboys go in the protest area, pour sugar in their gas tanks, cut their brake lines, and did all. It was criminal, absolutely criminal. Because if anyone else had done that to another citizen, they would have went to jail for vandalism and all kinds of stuff. But no, because the government did it, they got away with it, and he destroyed people's lives. Okay. If you don't hold it, you don't own it. They can go into your account and take every dime you have. So I'm telling you, you better pay attention as to what's going on. These people are crazy, and they will do anything they got to do to get money because they love money and they love power. You heard it here first. Now, the last thing I want to talk to you guys about is the whole thing with the eggs. Now I know everybody must be celebrating that the price of eggs is going down. Well, you know what happens when the price of eggs is going down is because they stop killing the hens. All right. Last thing I heard was the last culling of the hens that they did, I think, was maybe 2 weeks ago. It takes a good 22 weeks for a hen to get to the place where they lay. How do I know that? Because I raise hens. I've been raising hens for the last 7 years. So I know you don't buy a hen, a chicken, and a little chick, because I raised mine from babies. You don't buy a little chicken, they start laying next week. Nope, nope. I usually get them in the spring. They don't start laying until end of summer, beginning of fall. That's when they start to lay their very first one. And it may not even be regular because they're just getting started. They could lay an egg today and not lay another one for 2 days or 3 days, whatever. And I got a whole thing on how to preserve eggs. Okay, that's a whole nother thing. Anyway, I will, I asked you guys um, in my last video, not this one with part one and part two, but the one prior, I asked you guys what kind of content did you want, because I did have some people that were still asking me about hair, which you see, I ain't got time, okay? I got stuff going on. I have stuff going on. So I don't have time to get all fancy with the hair lately, like for a year, two almost. Um, and someone told me they wanted me to talk about preserving food, and someone else told me, yes, I want you to talk about how to take, excuse me, it's late, how to take care of natural hair. And then someone else said, keep doing what you're doing. And so, and then someone else said, do the other stuff on my other channel where I did the gardening and all this kind of stuff. Um, I'm in a time crunch, and the reason I'm in a time crunch is because I was consecutively elected to three different offices, um, like within a month. I don't listen. I was actually trying to get away from a couple of them, and one of them I voted against myself and still won. Okay, so imagine that. I just figured that's where God wanted me, because I wasn't trying to be nowhere. As a matter of fact, I didn't campaign for none of them, not a single one. I was asked to run, and I won by a landslide with all of them. So I didn't campaign. I ain't put out no posters. I ain't call nobody. I ain't do none of that. Oh well, let me back up. I called a couple people and I said, I just want you to pray that God's will be done. This is what I was asked to do. I'm not campaigning. If God wants me to do this, I believe I will win by a landslide. And that's exactly what happened. All three offices. Okay. So I would appreciate your prayers for wisdom and all that kind of stuff as I move forward, because I've got 2 years. My term is for 2 years. And then we'll see what God says. As far as I'm concerned, I'm finished. But I thought that last time. So we'll see. We'll see what he says. Anyway, let me know um, if you have any questions about anything that I said. Make sure you watch part one of this video. It's got the same title. It just says part one. And this one says part two. And make sure you sign in, because I can see you on here, but nobody has said who they are or where they're from in the chat box. So when I end the video or this live stream, make sure you go into the comment section. All right. And let me know what you think about what I've said in this video. Let me know what you think. What do you think? It's okay for a judge to demand that a plane full of criminals, rapists, and pedophiles be flown back to the U.S. in the name of humanitarian whatever? Listen, they came from somewhere. They can go back there, okay, and do all that craziness where it was allowed in their country, okay? Just let's just have a discussion about this down in the comment section. I would love to hear what your thoughts are about that, because I know some people feel like, well, these people, they just want a better life. You don't go to someone else's house, country, backyard, wreak havoc talking about you want a better life. Okay, just come on. Just miss me with that craziness. Okay, all right. I love you guys. Appreciate you and your patience for coming back on. Please give this video a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Some of you get notifications, some of you do not. I try to remember to, if I have your information, I'll try to text you and let you know when I'm going on. Sometimes it's spontaneous. This one was spontaneous. I just decided, you know what? They cut me off, and I ain't gonna just let them do that. I'm going back and finish what I was talking about. So that's why there's a part two. So anyway, let me know. I appreciate your feedback. Okay, and so when we end the video, go into the comment section of the video and let me know what your thoughts were. Hi, Bob. Tampa. How about that? Good to see you. Welcome. Are you new to the channel, or is this your first time? You can put that in the chat. um, if this is your first time, thank you for coming, and I do hope that you leave your comments in the comment section of the video under the description box. And if it's not your first time, well, welcome back, and I'm glad you're here. Anyway, I was just about to wrap up. Like I say, this is part two. They cut me off at, what was it, 21 minutes and 1 second or something like that in part one. So this is part two, because I figured I ain't gonna let them do me like that. I'm gonna finish what I started. So this is me finishing what I started. Anyhow, and I'm finished. So I hope you heard everything that was being said, and I do hope that you will leave your comments. And I do hope if you heard something that you liked, if you agreed, if you didn't disagree, if you disagreed, whatever, I don't care. This is America. You're entitled to your whatever. Okay. I just ask that you would pass on this video, that you would share it with your friends and give them a chance to have a discussion about what's being said and what's being done. And I will see you guys the next time I come on. Take care. God bless you, and keep prepping. You're going to need it.